Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. I'm Fitriyana Ramli from English Education Department Class B. I made this video as a fulfillment of my final assignment in the Curriculum and Development of English Language Teaching course, which I will discuss in this video is about three topics that are discussed about need analysis. The second is discuss about development of teaching materials, and the third discuss is about evaluation of learning outcomes. The first phase in the need analysis is preliminary phase. In the preliminary phase, I will provide an explanation of how to determine participant in need analysis, the information needed in need analysis, and instrument for conducting need analysis. Furthermore, an explanation of the collection of information in the need analysis. So I will give an explanation on how to distribute questionnaire, process data, present data, and analyze data. Next is an explanation of using information in need analysis. Here I will explain how to formulate a needs inventory. Furthermore, the explanation in the second phase or development phase, the first is about how to choose the main topic and determine the order of topics and plan the structure of the course or designing the syllabus. The second is explanation of how to write lesson plan and determine the organizational structure of teaching materials. And the third is to review and validate teaching materials. The next explanation is an explanation of the stage review. The first is an explanation of how to decide on teaching materials. The second is an explanation of how to decide on the use of formative or summative evaluation. And the last is an explanation of how to know student reaction or attitude, measure what students have learned, know teacher behavior, and display evaluation result. Okay, now I will explain about the first phase. The first is explanation about the participant in the need analysis. According to Brown, in determining who will be involved in the need analysis, there are four categories that can be involved. The first is the target group, namely the people who are involved in the information you want to collect. Second is the audience, that are people who are asked to act on the basis of analysis. The third is need analysis, that is the person responsible for conducting need analysis. The fourth on the last is the search group, namely people who serve as a source of information from the target group. Next is the information needed in need analysis. In this regard, we need to consider four different philosophies that are common in need analysis, as this philosophy influences the type of information to be collected. The first is philosophy of difference. The mismatch philosophy is information that view need as the difference between the performance student what they actually do. Second is philosophy of democracy. Democratic philosophy is a type of information that looks at the needs desired by the majority of the groups involved. Third is analytical philosophy. Analytical philosophy is information deemed necessary, such as research reports on second language acquisition. Fourth is diagnostic philosophy. Diagnostic philosophy is a type of information that view needs as the most important language skill that student needs to survive in the language they are learning. Here, we can ask questions in the form of important things that are needed by the target in maintaining or improving their English language, be it use of grammar, vocabulary, or pronunciation. And the last explanation is about the instrument for conducting a need analysis. The instrument for conducting a need analysis is to present the types of information in the form of a questionnaire. Next is an explanation about gathering information in the preliminary phase. In this section, information is collected in the form of data processing from the previously distributed questionnaire. As previously explained, the author used needs that are used to assess all the needs of the target group. In collecting information, there are several important things that must be done, namely how to distribute questionnaire, process data, present data, and analyze data. As for the things that were done to distribute the need analysis questionnaire, namely the first is the process of gathering information through the selection of types of question. These are questions that identify the target problem. Second is the priority question. In this question, usually contain the use of language and skill that are considered most important for the target to learn. Then the third is ability question that focus on the student themselves, which are usually related to student ability to measure overall language skill or to find out their weakness. The fourth is attitude question, which are questions designed to reveal information about the participant feelings and attitude. The fifth is solution question, which is a question that raises solution ideas in understanding the problem. After considering the types of question, the second step to determine the most appropriate instrument for gathering need analysis information. Furthermore, in data processing, data collected from various introductory questions is used to indicate the participant situation, for example, name, gender, or age. According to Brown, in the presentation of data, there are 6 categories of instrumentation that are available information, test, observation, interview, meeting, and questionnaire. In addition, when using any procedure to collect need analysis information, in analyzing data, it is necessary to consider 3 characteristics of each selected procedure. The 3 characteristics include reliability, validity, and usability. Next is an explanation of information need analysis. The need analysis process can generate a lot of valuable information for use in the curriculum and syllabus. The first is formulating an inventory of needs. In formulating an inventory of needs, there are 2, namely reviewing the needs inventory of linguistic needs and reviewing the needs inventory of learning needs. Reviewing the needs inventory of linguistic needs. The point is to identify linguistic need by analyzing learning priority and student learning ability. The result of the analysis are then used to priority skill needed by student and choose teaching materials that are in accordance with what is needed. Next, reviewing the needs inventory of learning needs. This research was conducted by analyzing learning problem and a student learning attitude. Student learning problems are described based on the analysis of respondent perception of barriers to student learning success in order to be able to master learning materials effectively. For the next, I will explain about how to formulate goals and objectives. The things that need to be considered in determining goals and objectives, namely, the first is identify student learning ability. The second is determine which language component must need to be studied as a priority. The third is identify the most preferred real-life topic and basic grammar. The fourth is identify the obstacle or problems that are most experienced by students. The five is identify the learning preference and learning style that are most preferred by students. In selecting syllabus content, the selection of syllabus problem is done by selecting the main topic and determining the order. As for how to determine the main topic according to Richards, that information collected during need analysis contributes to the planning of course content, as do additional ideas from other sources such as available literature on the topic and published materials on the topic. Needs and consultation can then be made a list of topics. After knowing how to choose the main topic, the next step is to determine the order of the topics. According to Richards, the order of content in a course can be determined based on the following criteria. The first is simple to complex. That is, the content presented earlier is taught more simply than the next item. The second is chronology. In this type of criteria, the content is sorted according to the sequence of events that occurred in the real world. The third is needs. Content is ordered according to when students are most likely to need it outside of class. The fourth is learning prerequisites. The sequence of content reflects what is needed at one point as a basis for the next step in the learning process. The fifth is wall to part or part to wall. In some cases, material at the start of a course may focus on the overall structure or organization of a topic before considering the individual components that make up it. The sixth is spiral order. Recycle items to ensure that learners have repeated opportunity to study them. Okay, for the next, I will explain about designing of syllabus, course structure planning, or designing a syllabus. The idea of designing a course syllabus can be started by choosing a syllabus framework, which is often related to the development of teaching materials based on the formulated syllabus framework. In planning the course, structure or syllabus, it must be arranged according to the needs of student. For example, in the speaking course, a student need include how he introduces himself, tells about his hobby, about his family, or about anything he can tell the people around him. Furthermore, I will explain about the development of teaching materials. At this stage or at this pace, there are two things that need to be considered. That are how to write lesson plan and determine the organizational structure of teaching materials. Well, how to write a lesson plan in the language program. Lesson plans function to identify learning objectives and mark routes. According to Brown, suggests uh, five important elements that must be considered in the preparation of lesson plan. That are purpose, materials and equipment, procedure, evaluation, and work outside the classroom. Further explanation about determining the organizational structure of teaching materials. The teaching materials in this section were developed based on the result of the needs analysis, which had previously been transformed into the syllabus and lesson plan. The organizational structure of research teaching materials is planned by unit, where each unit represents one topic and consists of 3 lessons. Okay, the last explanation in the development phase is to review and validate teaching materials. The study of teaching materials is carried out by providing instruments used to examine the element of teaching materials. There are content, language component, activity, and complementary materials. Content refers to Content refers to subject or topics covered in teaching materials. For the effectiveness of the content of the material, there are several statements that can be given regarding the content, including diversity of topics relevant to the level and needs, contribution of topics to the development of language skill, and originality of the material. Activity can be interpreted as action from the learning process carried out to achieve certain goals. Action in this case refers to the opportunity encourage student given to encourage student participation uh, in achieving knowledge by collection information and processing it by doing a segment in class. And for the last, complementary materials refer to instrument or media added to support and enhance teaching activity. Now I will explain the last, or maybe we can say the final phase, namely the review phase. First, in this phase, I will give an explanation of how to decide which teaching materials will be presented. At this stage, there are several things that need to be considered. There are how to determine the teaching materials to be presented and determine the procedure for teaching materials. In deciding which teaching materials to be presented, there are things that must be considered. There are determined 3 topics and randomly selected among the 11 topics of teaching materials developed. Uh, the next is 3 topics selected to be tested in class are used as example of implementation procedure at the review stage. And the last is each topic is implemented in 2 general sections with time allocation and specific procedure for each section. Okay, for the next explanation, I will explain about determine procedure for teaching materials. Uh, there are 2 procedures for teaching materials. The first is implementation of course content usually takes place for 3 consecutive days involving 15 students. And the second is implementation of the evaluation aims to test the effects of teaching materials on increasing the communicative competence of the target student after going through the trial procedure. Therefore, the evaluation is carried out immediately after the implementation step is carried out. Furthermore, an explanation of the evaluation of learning outcomes. At this stage, there are things that need to be considered, namely how to decide the use of formative or summative evaluation. Summative evaluation refers to examining what has been learned a specific time, such as the end of lesson, unit, or course. It is based on cumulative learning experience, test for achievement, and mastery of specific performance goals. While formative evaluation focuses on determining which aspect of the designing are working well or not, and why. This evaluation occurs during the redesign and provide information for incrementally improving the interface. In other words, formative evaluation is used in iterative process to make improvement before production. Summative evaluation is used to evaluate delivered product compared to benchmarks. Okay, for the next I will explain about summative evaluation. According to Kirkpatrick, summative evaluation can be carried out in four main levels. The first level is reaction. The first level evaluation is done by assessing the student reaction or attitudes towards their learning experience. The second level is study. This level aims to measure what students have learned from the material presented by comparing their performance before and after receiving instruction. The third level is behavior. At this level of evaluation, teachers need to be involved in determining that student can actually use everything they have learned from the materials. The fourth level is result. Result after conducting the previous three levels of evaluation. The effectiveness of the communicative competence based syllabus design for one speaking course or independent variable can be measured in two aspects, namely the influence of instructional design on student achievement, where the syllabus improve communicativeness. Competence or bound variable based on student response, pre-test or post-test result, as well as lectures perception of student performance. When the evaluation level comes to decide whether the result of the previous evaluation procedure indicate that the training program has achieved its objective, the material is revised and transformed into a syllabus design that is ready to be used in an actual educational context. After going through the review stage, the syllabus design becomes a communicative competence based syllabus design for undergraduate students. Okay, that's all of my topic explanation about the topics of being in the video. The first topic is discussion about the need analysis. The second about the development of teaching materials, and the third or the last topic is discuss about evaluation of learning outcomes. I'm sorry for many mistaken pronunciation in this video. Thank you and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.